thank everyone. I want to thank everyone for today. Wanda Gale?
She's back on.
Yeah,
Or
I
trying
see
to get-
her. She's
Hello.
muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes. Say a couple more things, Wanda Gale. Wanda Gale?
Yes. Can you not hear me?
I
Yeah,
can
Yes,
hear you
we
now.
hear you. Yes.
Can you hear us?
Okay.
Can you
I
hear us,
can now,
Wanda Gale?
yes. I'm gonna. Yes.
Hello.
Okay, great.
Now,
Hello? Yes, I can
there
hear
you
you.
go.
We can hear-
Our picture goes in and out, and our sound goes in and out, and sometimes it freezes.
But right now,
It's
We can-
it's
frozen.
frozen.
Okay, we can hear you though, Ken and Lydia. So, Lydia. And so we want to thank everybody for joining us today. You know, I think many people are saying they're zoomed out, but we're going to appreciate those of you who have zoomed in. And this is just an honor for Global Ties Alabama to have launched and continue sponsoring our virtual programming. This is the third in a series of features on our home hospitality diplomatic corps members, and we're just so thankful for each of you. And so I'm also appreciative that we have a moderator, John Hamilton, who's one of our past board chairs, who he and his wife have been actively involved as home hospitality hosts and home hosts. So the last 2 weeks, we've looked at engaging with our diplomatic corps members who have hosted visitors for dinner or for meals. Today, you as panelists, or our three sets of panelists, have gone beyond the call of just dinner and meals, but you've actually hosted visitors for overnight stays in your home. And sometimes we have just celebrated you and you didn't even know. We were cheering and cheering in the office when you said yes. In fact, one of the families, we didn't even know they were hosting. So again, thank you for joining. And I'm going to turn it over to John Hamilton, who will serve as our able-bodied moderator this afternoon. John?
Well, thank you, Jackie. And I wanted to, if you look behind me there, those that are visual here, you can see 4 groups of delegates that stayed at our house. And I picked this collage to give an example of the variety of delegates we have. But in the left-hand corner there, you see 2 young ladies. One of those is a college professor. The other one is a high school teacher. They're both specialized in science, technology, engineering, and math. And they're from Russia. The one from the high school teacher is actually from St. Petersburg. Right below them are 2, and I'll slide here with my wife. Sitting with my wife are 2 attorneys from Kosovo. And they've become good friends that are on our Facebook, and we communicate with them quite frequently. If you look over here at the top there, we have a program called KAYA, Central American Youth Ambassadors, and 2 of our youth ambassadors that are high school students. And we really love that. We had 2 boys, and so we know how to do boys at our house, so we take boys. And right below that is 2 members of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs from Tajikistan, 2 diplomats, professional diplomats, and they just most recently stayed with us in February. It seems like February was forever ago, but they were with us not too long ago. But that gives you an example. I was listening to Kenny Anderson on TV. He was being interviewed, and Kenny is the multicultural affairs officer for the city of Huntsville. He was talking about the fact of that we in our businesses, we may work with somebody from another race, from another religion, from another background, from another country. We may go out and socialize with them at a community event. And we may even go to church with them. But the real proof of the pudding of whether that person is a friend is whether we invite them into our home. Because inviting them to sit at our table, that's our private space. And when we bring somebody into our home, that is a very, and the people on this call today are people who routinely invite people into their home, people who are strangers, who they know nothing about, who are often of different religion, a different race, and often for more than a few days too, we have them in our home. So I thought I would today, in the other webinars we've had, we talked about some of the advantages of hosting, and some of the we've had a lot of personal stories told. I thought today we would try to focus on some of the responsibilities that we have as citizen diplomats when we're hosting a group in our home. And when we have our family in our house, our friends, close friends, who are staying in one of our bedrooms, it's one thing. When we have somebody from a different culture, it's totally a different thing. So I want to lead here with one of the responsibilities we have as hosts is to introduce them to our American culture, or in our case, Alabama culture. And sometimes it's harder to do than you think. So I'm going to start out with Wanda Gale and let Wanda Gale share with us how you do that sometimes, Wanda Gale.
Did you already introduce everybody and I missed it? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I want to introduce everybody. I'm John Hamilton. I'm a retired Army officer. I was also CEO of a company that was international, and I traveled a lot. And that's my interest in anything global. I'm interested in it. Wanda Gale, Reverend Wanda Gale Campbell.
Okay, I am a peace minister at present, and that means I do ministry at the moment. I don't run a church or any of that, but I did my seminary work and was ordained in an organization called the Beloved Community, and that's my goal in life, is to try to create peace and harmony as a beloved community minister. And I've been doing this Global Ties work, well, back when it was International Services Council, 15 years at least, maybe a little more. And travel is something that I love, and I love doing this work because it's kind of like I get to travel when I don't go anywhere particularly. So that's me.
True. That's true.
Dr. Drew Reynolds.
Yes, my wife, Lynn, I'm sorry she's not able to be here today, but when it was moved from 5 to 1, she said that was going to conflict a little bit, but she wanted to make sure that we let everybody know how important hosting has been for us over the years. I've been a member of Global Ties and been the chair for a number of years and been participating. We've probably hosted, at least of the more recent groups, probably 7 of the Open World Forums and probably 5 or 6 of the Kaya, which are the home stays. Before that, with the IVLP program that Global Ties is doing, we've participated for 20 years with dinners and so forth. So I've always taken the responsibility as a citizen diplomat is to give people kind of the deepest and widest experience of our culture that you can do in a week. You want to make sure that they're able to, get a good feel. They're coming from completely different cultures, and you want to make sure that you're open to, that they feel free to ask questions and see exactly how we live here in the U.S. And the things that we find important. And we try and stress that and try and have people have a good time too. The last 2 groups we've taken to Topgolf, and the guys have never played golf in their life and have had a big time doing that. And other groups we'll take for historical things. So it has been a real source of pleasure for us to introduce our community, and also to feel like that you're touching the global community by actually hosting. And it's been a very positive experience for us.
Okay, Ken?
I'm a retired research director for the Kentucky Education Association, and that was program manager for Kentucky's air quality program. We had our first experience with a foreign exchange student. We kept a student from Sweden for a year. Since then, we've become very good friends with that family and visited them in Sweden. And they visited us in different parts of the United States several times. We also, I mentioned earlier, hosted two college students from Azerbaijan, and had a great time with them, and still are in touch with them. It seems that once you host these people, you have a contact for life. We have worked with John Davis and Jane Davis, I'm sure you know them, in hosting some meals here at our house. We had a wonderful time with a group of people from different African countries. And some of those countries were the poorest countries in the world. And what surprises you, or at least surprised me, I guess some of you are more used to it, is their attitude toward their own countries. They're proud of their countries.
So
That's
I was a teacher for 30 years. And after we came to Alabama,
we lost them.
I lost somebody. Whoever was speaking, I lost.
Okay, we'll go back. We'll go back to Wanda Gale, and Drew kind of answered part of the question there. But again, we were talking about what we do to expose them to our culture.
Well, you know, one of the things that's really impressed me is many, especially the younger people who come, are well versed usually before they get here in what's available in our area and what things they're interested in. So I have learned to listen to what it is they really want. And I usually, like at breakfast the morning after they arrive, usually is when we start having conversation about what is it that you would like to do. But I kind of wanted to talk about my very first encounter with international services, because that was really the auspicious beginning for me when I got a phone call one day, and I think it was either 1 or 2 days later, that I was on a bus to Montgomery, Selma, and Birmingham with a group that they just wanted somebody locally, and I happened to be one person that Frank Broyles, who was on the board at that time, knew that was available. And I didn't know what I was getting into, but I just kind of fell in love with all of this. It was just a phenomenal trip. I've gotten to go to places in Alabama and in Huntsville that I would have never gone had I not been with these groups. So I started out with that attitude that I'm an Alabama ambassador before I'm even a United States citizen diplomat. And I really try to give my time to what the guests want, whatever that looks like to them. And if they don't have ideas, then of course, you know, we can always come up with something. And my husband was originally going to be part of this, and he had some other things he needed to do. But one of the things he loves to do is, one of the things we hear is they don't get enough physical exercise a lot of times. So my husband has a favorite little outdoor trail that he likes to take them to if they're willing. And one woman from Russia didn't have any walking shoes, but she went in her heels because she wanted that outdoor. It's just phenomenal, the experiences that we can have as we see them as ambassadors of their country and ours, and how they work together.
Okay. Drew, you want to add anything to what you said earlier?
Well, the only thing that I would add is that the challenges can sometimes be unique. We've had several. Probably 5 years ago, we had 2 gentlemen that stayed with us from Tajikistan before this last group. And the day they arrived, it snowed about 5 inches. And literally all of the programs were canceled for the week. So we had them 24 hours for, for 7 days. And I'm still thinking of these poor guys from Tajikistan flying all the way over. And the only thing they know about America is the house of one dentist in Alabama. So, well, we actually went out and did many things, but everything was closed. I mean, from movie theaters to restaurants, nothing was open, and no programs, no mayor's key, no nothing. So we took hikes in the snow, and I took them around to look at buildings that were all closed up, and we had a great time. And we still talk to Shurab because that was just a unique experience. So our other was last year we had the girls from Suriname, and 20 minutes after they arrived, we crashed. I mean, my wife got run into by somebody who ran a red light. And so we had to kind of handle them in the ER, in the emergency room. And things were fine, except that one of the little girls had sort of her leg did hurt for her trip here. So, it took several weeks after she returned home to, so we were most concerned about her experience and trip here, but she only speaks fondly of it. So, but that's probably the power of youth rather than anything we did. So,
okay.
So yeah.
Ken, anything? I'm sorry, Ken, anything to add?
Well, we're not sure what you heard because our video and audio went off.
We were talking about how we introduced them to Alabama culture when they're here.
Well, of course.
Civil rights.
Yeah, we have taken people to Birmingham to go through civil rights. We took them to Nashville, Tennessee, and let them see the Grand Ole Opry and what goes on in Tennessee. Some strange things. For example, I'm a target shooter, and two of them were very fascinated by that. So that's a little bit of Americana for some people. But we've had a wonderful time with the people who have come here. And the people that we have met through other programs and are very enthusiastic about continuing with this.
Okay, if you can see in my picture there, my wife isn't with me today, but she's in all four of the pictures and I'm only in one. She's really the host, I'm just the driver. And some of the places we have gone to, Burt Museum, which is always a good one, the new Cooks Museum in Decatur, and Wheeler Wildlife Refuge to see the cranes over there is something they don't see. One interesting one with the Kaya group, the youth from Central America. We had one from Honduras and one from Belize, and between their two countries, there was only one bowling alley, and they wanted to go bowling. If you think about it, bowling is about as American as you can be, is go to the bowling alley. So I took them to a pizza buffet, which was very popular with two teenage boys, and then we went bowling, and it was almost dangerous standing next to the lane next to them, but they learned to bowl, and it was like going to Disney World for them. They really had a great time. So it was a great opportunity.
So may I also tell you another place that's really nice? The Barber Museum in Birmingham. It's like barber who cuts your hair. It's cars. Have you been there?
I have never been there.
Well, listen, if you have boys, they definitely need to go there. There are 3 levels of cars, and they're like parked in cubbies, up and down. You start at the top and you go down. And the boys that we've taken there, we take all our family there. Everybody that visits goes to the Barber Museum. It's exciting.
It's cars and motorcycles from the 19th century all the way to the present.
Okay.
There are hundreds of them.
There are 1,400.
Wow.
1,400 cars.
There's a racetrack there. Do you ever take?
Yes, there is.
Yes, there is.
You can They don't let you drive the Porsches though, do they?
No. But when we took the boys from Azerbaijan, we went and they ran in. They squatted down like they were sitting in the car, and each of them took a picture of the other one, sitting on the other side of the car as if they were driving. And they ran all over that place. But that was probably the one place that we went to that they were just free. They just fell into it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
But one of the other issues we deal with is that the delegate is often of another religion than the one we are. They may be Muslim, they may be Buddhist, they may be Eastern Orthodox, even though they're Christian, they're Eastern Orthodox. And it creates a situation for the host of how do I practice my faith and have them practice their faith and for this week that they're here. So, Gail, why don't you start out and share with us how you do that?
I think I've probably had somebody from every tradition over time because we've been doing this hosting for so long. And I even had a person who declared himself an atheist right up front when he heard I was a minister. He wanted to make sure I understood that he didn't have anything to do with all that. But over time, he spent a week with us, and over the week, we got into some conversations, and he was very open to having conversation about anything. And finally, toward the end of the week, he said, okay, well, I'm really not an atheist. I'm just agnostic, and I honor your faith kind of thing. But I always would invite church if they want. But it was interesting. We had a group of Muslims who wanted to experience the Jewish temple. We had a group that wanted to experience gospel music that you don't get in most of our white mainstream kinds of churches, and they were white guys, but that's what they wanted. So I think it's again, for me, it's asking them, what is it, do you have an experience that you want to have, and how can we accommodate what they want? And if they don't have any suggestion, then I think it's my job to make some suggestions, because we have just about everything in Huntsville religion-wise. So I mean, the opportunities are there, and I love the interfaith stuff, so I'll go anywhere for a worship service. So that's been a real. We have to be resilient, I guess, is one of the words that was up, because I have to respect wherever they're coming from. And sometimes a meal prayer is an issue for some people, and we just usually will hold hands and have every person, if they wish, express something they're grateful for, rather than doing, although it depends on the group, honestly, but just to be flexible and resilient, I think, is where I'm coming from.
I remember a particular time, now that you've mentioned this one, Gail, we were at the United Way building, and IMS was hosting Religion and Democracy, I think it was. And there was a huge room. I mean, a lot of people in the room. And then they were talking about religion being, Christianity was a very negative thing to most of them, because they pictured the fire-breathing preachers, the strong evangelicals. And they said, are all church people in America evangelicals? And you or someone said, oh no. And then Rhonda and I said, well, we're somewhat evangelical. And it created a fascinating conversation about what it means to be evangelical. Mm-hmm. Very civil, but it opened up new avenues of discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I find them very open.
Yes.
Drew, anything to add there?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is we've had a host and a range like everybody else. And I think our experience has been pretty much 50-50 on attending services or wanting to attend services. Usually they have a very full program, and typically Sunday is kind of a rest day. And most I shouldn't say most, but a lot prefer not to have just one more thing to do. But, we listened to that and have probably taken half the delegations to our services that have been interested, and probably the other half have been not interested. And so we'll have a later breakfast and plan to do something else, or let them work on their computers or whatever to get ready for the week. So I think that, we try and, sort of expose people to the idea of the religious diversity in Huntsville by just the numbers of different churches you can pass just going to your house. You can say, here's the Seventh-day Adventist, here's the Bible college, here's the, Methodist, and you can, we have the Catholic Church, down the street is the Jewish conservative synagogue, not the Reform, and so we've been, very well able to sort of show the diversity that really exists in a town like Huntsville.
Anything to add there, Tim?
We have, we're very accustomed to accommodating people of other religions in our life because we're not Christians. So we are surrounded by that. And we attend a Unitarian Universalist church that likewise accommodates many different religions. Are we frozen? Am I speaking to people? I don't know. Because my image, I am speaking.
Yeah, you're fine.
My image was frozen again.
Well, we
attend a church. We attend a church that is attended by people of different religions. So there are everything from conservative Christians to atheists and agnostics in the church, and we very much enjoy the variety of people that we meet from other countries and from this country of different religions.
Okay, well, our experience, we go to First Baptist Madison. We're Southern Baptists, and we always invite the delegation to go to church with us, and we've never had one say no. And this last one we had, they were both Muslim, and they went. I always text the pastor and tell them that we're going to have guests from some foreign country, and he normally recognizes them from the pulpit. But the church has been very welcoming to these people and active to talk with them. When we have Kaya youth with us, they go with our youth group and go up and attend Bible study with the youth as they normally would do. And my wife and I were talking about it this morning. At our supper table, we hold hands when we bless the food. And so when our two Muslim diplomats were here, we held hands the first night and blessed the food. The next day, when the delegation was having lunch, our guys said, "Okay, we all have to hold hands." And bless. They all held hands and blessed the food. So I guess he thought that everybody was going to do that. And we had a very devout Muslim from Indonesia, and she was very active in interfaith dialogue issues, and I feared for her life, to be honest. That she was in a tough situation, but it was a great opportunity. She was quite open about discussing her faith and us discussing ours and where we differ and what we have in common. So for my church, I've been very proud of our congregation for being so accepting of these from different faiths and being willing to dialogue with them.
You're part of a very moderate Baptist church.
That's true. One of the other challenges we have, and I mentioned this in one of the other webinars, is these people are coming to learn something, and they're going to be exposed to our culture, and we learn something from it. But we also have a responsibility for exposing them to as many people while they're here as we can. And part of them, they do that just through their travels and going to their meetings and everything else. But there are some things that we often do ourselves to try to bring somebody else in the house and introduce them to these delegations. So does somebody want to share that? I'll start out with Wanda Gale again.
There's been so many things, but the one that kind of rises to the top for me was a group of young people, and one of the young men was wanted to be a chef. He would love to cook, and he was just looking for a kitchen where he could cook for the entire delegation and all of the host families and anybody else that wanted to be invited, basically. And I was thrilled to say, use my kitchen. I'll just let you do all the cooking that day. And it was wonderful. I think we ended up having somewhere around 25 people. I usually will invite some friends. It depends on how many other people we have. But in that case, we had so many delegates with families, that there really was enough, but they don't always get to see the other host families very much. And so it really was a wonderful evening that way. Challenges, the unexpected things are always challenging for me because I'm a planner. And there's been so many little things that didn't seem to fit the plan. I guess one in particular that was a young woman who was our guest for the week, and from Turkmenistan. And when she got to our home, and after we had a chance to get to know each other a little bit, she announced that her husband from Texas would be arriving in a couple of days. And nobody knew that she had a husband here and so anyway, as it worked out, they wanted to rent a little cabin together so they could have a private evening, which was fine for the weekend. And things do tend to work out if we're just open to go with the flow, I guess. I know one time, just in an impromptu, there was a reporter from the London Times that needed a place to stay for a few days while she was doing research on immigration. And the call came out, and I said, well, I have a guest room. I'm not using it right now. Sure, come on over. And she gave us a pumpkin. That was the only thing she had time to buy for us, and she wasn't planning ahead to stay. So there's just all these really interesting things. No two are ever alike.
We met one of the Fulbright scholars from the Philippines. She was from Manila, and she said when she was coming over, she was going to be working at a university, and she was trying to pick one. So she picked a university in the capital of Kentucky, in Frankfort, Kentucky, thinking that it would be similar to being in Manila. I don't know if you've ever been in Frankfort, Kentucky, but it's about the size of Athens, Alabama, and she was really surprised. But she was also very disappointed because she had limited travel ability and knew very few people. So what I did was work with my friends from Frankfurt. That's where I lived for many years, so that she could have company and transportation and so on. And then before she left, we went up to visit her in Frankfurt, and we have been in contact with one another ever since. It's just wonderful opportunities to visit and work with these people.
Great. Drew? Anything to add?
Yeah, I remember our first challenge was for our first open world group was 4 Russians that insisted on knowing where to go in Huntsville to go out and have a good time. So I said, well, you're with a bunch of 60-year-old, I mean, this is not, the party, we're kind of quiet here in Alabama. But he says, there must be a time we're going to go out. So I took them downtown, and, it was a legendary Russian evening. I mean, I have never, I had one Heineken beer for the night so I could drive everybody home. But it was, I think that, it was down at Humphreys, and they had a band down there. And I think there was a group of soccer coaches that were here on something. And we must have closed the place down at 1 o'clock. And so I said, well, I haven't done that in a while, but.
You're a brave man, Drew.
That sounds more like they introduced you around to the culture.
Right. I said, I don't know where to go, but we'll go here and see what's happening. And sure enough, it worked out. So they had a good time. They thought Huntsville was a great place. So we did get our evening out in.
We've invited neighbors over to eat with us at times when we have guests there, so those neighbors can meet them. It's a time for them to interface with another American family. When I had STEM teachers, I invited 2 STEM teachers from Bob Jones High School to come, and they had a great time. They exchanged a lot of, good thing we had an interpreter. We needed one, but they exchanged a lot of ideas about STEM. And when we take them out to eat somewhere and there's a waiter or a waitress, I always introduce them as, these are my guests from Belize and Honduras. Mm-hmm. And you'd be surprised how excited the the staff gets about, serving somebody from a foreign country and having an interest in it. And when we went to, we took a group of Fulbrights to our hotel, our reservation got messed up, so we ended up at Steaming Cajun, which is down near the hospital, and I'd never been there. And they were packed, and I walked in and I said, we have people here from 12 foreign countries. They're visiting our city, and we need to take care of them. And the staff just went, they just went overboard to get us a table, push everything together, and get chairs from every place to make sure that group was taken care of. It made me so proud of the way we handled a foreign delegation like that. And so I think the people out there, for some of the people here, for many of the people here in Alabama, they've actually never met a foreign person before. They literally have not met a foreign person.
It's true.
And so this is their chance to actually meet one, and it enhances their understanding of what a foreign person looks like. How they act, how they eat their meal, what they eat. But it's a chance for us to impact the citizens here in Alabama. I want to close when we got about 8 minutes left here with one last question. Sometimes, because they're from a different culture, the delegates are not prepared that they embarrass themselves or embarrass us or embarrass the people they're meeting with because of their actions. And I try to address that problem the night before. Sit down with the delegates and say, tomorrow you're going to be with the mayor, and we call him the mayor, to kind of give them an idea of what's coming up. I had to host a delegation from the Mideast. They were from Saudi, Kuwait. They were all attorneys, and it was on a Friday, and it was a warm day, and we were going to Sanford Law School, but then they were going to the Civil Rights Institute and other places in Birmingham, and I don't know whether they thought this was a field trip or what, but I showed up wearing my suit. The State Department representative wore his coat and tie, and they showed up wearing, two of them were in short pants, one of them was in collarless shirts, one guy was wearing flip-flops, and we were late, so we had to go. And when we got down there, we drove in front of Sanford Law School, and there stood the dean and 3 of his department heads in their suits, and we all crowded out and had our picture taken. It was embarrassing for everybody, and to this day, I wish I had said, guys, we wear a coat and tie when we go to a law school and meet the dean, and so you need to go back and change even if we're late. But I didn't insist on it, and I made a mistake there. Anybody want to share with us a similar experience?
Well, I didn't have any of the embarrassing experiences, but I did want to just give an appreciation when those kinds of things have happened. If you really look at the itinerary now, most of the time, if there is an appropriate dress, a lot of times it's indicated.
Right.
And so I appreciate that there's been recognition, because they really don't know what's appropriate for the day sometimes, depending on, what their own experience is. But I haven't had it. I have found most of them very, I haven't had one of those formal kinds of experiences, I guess, like you had, John. So I appreciate every little clue that we get that helps it go smoother.
Yeah, my experience has been the flip side, that they are usually overdressed. Americans.
Well,
At least
I use,
like they want to know where the iron is. They're, ironing their clothes. I said, well, that's interesting. Probably most, Americans probably send those off to be done. If it can't be done by the cleaners, then it's not pressed. But so, yeah, we've seen them, definitely dress up for, not for obviously relaxation things, but generally speaking, ours have been pretty well dressed. So.
well, I use dress as my example here, but I'll give you another example. Is in some cultures, especially in Central and South America, on time means 30 minutes late.
Yeah.
So I've had delegates who stayed with me, and no matter how many times I've told them what time the car was leaving, they weren't ready. But that was just part of their culture. They didn't worry too much about what time we got
I
there.
think,
I have a reputation for being a time Nazi.
Yes.
I think, my experience in this has been that, for heaven's sakes, don't act embarrassed for them. It's our job as hosts to carry through the situation with tact. Let's just act as if what's going on is of no concern and no consequence, which it really isn't.
You're correct.
I'm sorry that they came in the wrong dress, but they need to know that that's acceptable to us, at least, as hosts.
Yes.
You're correct, Ken. And we have to do it sometimes with people that know better than Americans. We have to sometimes do it tactfully.
I got caught wearing a sweater vest and a casual shirt at a signing in the governor's office. So
the other aspect, and we don't have a lot of time to explore it, but on the same question is we all have a filter of what a personal mental filter of what's appropriate to ask somebody, especially a politician. What I have, I'm often asked by the delegates, can I, and especially when the politician is running for office, can I ask them whether they do this or that, or ask them something personal? And I always discourage to get it from a foreign delegate to get in a conversation in a political nature with somebody here. But sometimes it does happen, and sometimes it's okay. We're not, and I think we discussed this as an organization, Global Ties, is we're not trying to promote one U.S. political party or position over another. We're neutral in this process, so we want to encourage that. Well, I want to thank everybody that's participated today and come online, and I hope it's been beneficial. With even though many of us have done this before, it's an opportunity to share that we don't get very often, and to learn from each other. And it's very obvious we've all had some great experiences and continue to be excited about hosting foreign delegates. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jackie.
Thanks to John, and thanks to all of you for participating today. When we have launched our webinars, it's with the purpose of engaging our constituents, but we also have another opportunity with especially the last three, including this webinar, that we can use this as part of our orientation for prospective host families. We're constantly replenishing our host family listing, and many times we'll be asked the same questions that John has asked. The good news about Zoom is that we've been able to record this, and it won't be just a talking head of Jackie talking in front of a group of prospective hosts. So thank you so much for adding value, as always, to our organization. We're thankful to have our former board chair, Frank Broyles, join us. And he doesn't realize that he'll be getting an email from me soon, because if he thinks he's going to be showing up on these webinars and we're not getting him back to work, you're wrong, Frank. So we're delighted.
I give up. I'm ready to serve.
We're thankful that all of you are servant leaders and that you're distinguished members of our diplomatic corps of volunteers. Thank you for your commitment to Global Ties Alabama, and of course to citizen diplomacy. Have a wonderful week, and again, thank you for your added value today.
It was good seeing you.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.